everyone, I'm Ashley Quicken and I'm a little late to be posting, but I talked to the professor and he's letting me do my post a little bit later. I actually got a job as a teacher, so I'm actually going to talk about Thomas Jefferson and his legacy. And I think he has a really great legacy. And I think one of the greatest ways to see it is actually in his tombstone. I'll actually link that below. I'm sure everyone has talked about it. And in it is inscribed that here is buried Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Independence of America, author of the Declaration of American Independence, of the Statue of Virginia for Religious Freedom, and the father of the University of Virginia. And these are pretty major accomplishments. But it also shows that he wants people to see the things that he did for his people rather than who he thought he was, or attributes that he thought of himself. He's showing things that he changed in the founding of America. Everyone talks about how he might not have been Christian, or how a lot of the founders weren't Christian and things like that. At this point, I don't really think it matters. He was a big component of religious freedom. My thoughts really haven't changed on him after going to college and learning about, possibly having children that were half black with his slaves, or whether it was him or his brother, through DNA testing. We did learn about it when we were in Monticello as students. But he also had a lot of controversy because he believed that all men were created equal, and that slaves should be emancipated. This created a lot of conflict, but he never let go of his slaves. And he did this, I think, because during his time, he couldn't run a plantation, he couldn't do the work, and he wasn't certainly not going to find a white male that was going to do it. So it wasn't something during the 18th century that was plausible. It wasn't going to happen. So he felt that he was actually maintaining his principles by believing this, but he wanted to pursue it in a different way. And he set up these foundations for later, during the Civil War, for Abraham Lincoln and things like that. So he actually was on to something. And I think his legacy lived on with Abraham Lincoln in the Civil War and the emancipation then. Does it really change that he had these controversies on top of other things? Absolutely not. Some of his actions and his towards slave ownership was similar to others, and especially the founding fathers at this time. Like I mentioned before, it wasn't uncommon, but he wasn't going to go out there and hoe the gardens and take care of his tobacco plants. He was not going to do that. Excuse me. So Jefferson was the founding father. He was a president, and he left behind a legacy that he built a new nation. He helped build a new nation, and he did things for the people of our nation. He was a democratic icon. He was an elegant public speaker, and he understood the people of America and the tensions that we had and the fundamental concerns. And he stood for the American creed of self-government and that all men are created equal. And that's a legacy that he left behind. We all have our problems. We all have good and bad. And he had a private life and he had a public life. And he did the best that he could. So he's good old Thomas Jefferson. Thanks for listening, and see you in week 7.